Here we are with DOYLE BRAMHALL II in London. And DOYLE, great news, you've got a new album, Shades, coming out on the 5th of October on the Provogue label through the Mascot Label Group. So love to hear some more about the new album, how that came together, and also some perspectives about the fact it comes relatively soon after the previous album, Rich Man. So talk me through how that came into being, and how the songs differ and the attitude to the album differs from the previous album.
Well, I think with my my previous record, Rich Man, was the first record that I had made as a solo artist in about 15 or 17 years maybe. And you know, even though I had been making music and writing songs and even recording songs, I hadn't released anything in 17 years. And I just wanted that record to really break the ice finally with, you know, things that I had gone through and, you know, all the influences that I had been influenced by over the years that I hadn't been putting out music. And so that album was really just sort of the breaking of ice, to then get, you know, more of a flow with putting out records and making my music, to then sort of create you know, a big body of work that I can look back on and enjoy, and hopefully the fans could too.
That's great. And it's an album of many colours, as the name kind of hues. Shades.
Hues. I was going to name it Hues, but yes, I agree.
And the sense I get from the album and the lyrics is quite a spiritual album in terms of some of the and got some thought-provoking lyrics on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, you know, what I feel is that that music and albums, while they still exist, are just representations of and reflective of what you're going through in that time period. You know, and it doesn't, I mean, the record could even be an instrumental album and still reflect that, you know, in emotions and in sounds. And, you know, because when I listen to instrumental records, because I listen to a lot of jazz records and a lot of classical music and Indian classical music and Middle Eastern music, you know, most of the music that I listen to are instrumental only, and you know, I hear the stories that are running through that. I hear things that sound ancient to me, that are ancient messages and stuff that are being told through these sounds, you know. So you know, for me, this album just represents everything I had gone through in, I don't know, a 1.5 year period since the record before, and I'd gotten way more into the flow of things because I had been out on the road for 5 years versus a 1.5 years or whatever when Rich Man came out. I've been touring non-stop, and you know, when you tour that much and play that much, you know, you get way more in the zone, you know. I remember, you know, I had been playing with other people as like their backup guitarist or whatever, for many years, and I hadn't been out there as a solo artist with my own band in probably a decade. And I remember playing this one festival in I think Florida, and I remember Susan Tedeschi played. It was with her own band, and I think the Allman Brothers played, and then the Archangels played. And I remember seeing Susan, and she had a 3-piece band or whatever, and I was just sort of blown away that she was so tight. Like, her music was so tight, and they just had a real thing together. And that thing is that they had all been out there on the road for, you know, 5 or 6 years, so they were so in tune and in line with each other that they just had this sort of one organism kind of thing. It was like there was a lot of fire to it. And I remember wondering why I didn't really have that. But then later on, when I had spent that much time on the road, you know, I started to feel that, and I started to understand, like, that's what that is, you know. It's just experiencing it and being out there and doing it as much as you can. You get so good at your craft that, you know, it sort of speaks for itself.
Yeah, so the tone of the album is somewhat different to the previous one, whereas the previous one is informed by sort of Middle Eastern sounds and some of the, I guess, some of the thoughts or flavours or colours you got from the travels that you did. Was that a deliberate move to focus more on, I guess, let's say Western type of sounds on the new album? You
know, I think that the way that I write songs is just, it's really spontaneous. Like, the songs just come to me. Whatever style it is, it doesn't really mean anything to me as I'm writing them. I just write the songs, and they are what they are. And, you know, I think that, you know, even throughout the course of music, the music industry has always needed to sort of box things into one genre, or it needs to be this one sound, and if it's not that, then you can't say, oh, well, that's what it is. But I mean, the artists that I grew up listening to and loved didn't really have genres to me. I mean, Jimi Hendrix, Stevie Wonder, Sly Stone, the Beatles, like, what genre are they? I don't know. I mean, they had their own sound, you know? And so, because I have so many different kinds of influences and I listen to so many different types of music, I think it's going to resonate and have elements of that, even if I don't study that music. You know, it's still going to come out somewhere in my own music.
That's what I really liked about the album. It's an album of songs, but it has, going back to the theme, many colours, many shades to it. From, I mean, the first track, Love and Pain, is you know, it's quite sort of deep subject matter, but it's got a great groove. It's kind of got like a Lenny Kravitz little groove to it as well. And yeah, it's a great way to kick off the album, but it's not bombastic. It's like a fully rounded song. Right.
Well, yeah. I mean, that one was just sort of one of, actually, a little demo that we had recorded in Brooklyn. It was just me and this songwriter Aki Burmis, who wrote a lot of the lyrics. But he was playing piano, and I just, we were playing along, I think I was on drums, maybe. I did like this drum loop. We recorded the song to that, and then I overdubbed a guitar and a bass, and then we just sort of, you know, let it rest, and then I came back to it, and then we wrote the lyrics to that song, and then put a couple of more elements on there. But it, yeah, I mean, to me it had sort of a kind of quality to, like, a Curtis Mayfield thing in the 70s. You know, because with Superfly, for example, he was talking a lot about a lot of dark stuff on that record, you know, especially for that time, and it sort of had that thing to it, to me, like a Curtis Mayfield type.
And one of my favourite tracks of the album is London to Tokyo, because it starts off as a slow shuffle.
Is it because London?
Could be because of Tokyo. And then it starts off as this shuffle, then you have this amazing 70s fuzz tone type of solo, and then there's this string thing at the end. It's like, it's brilliant.
Well, yeah, I like sort of going wherever the songs take me. So, you know, I have, like, when I'm writing songs, I have sort of a visceral aspect of it that it sort of dictates what the sound should be to me, and so I start to sort of resonate that as I'm creating the song. So to me, I wanted to have sounds that represented a more worldliness quality to it, and have a multitude of different elements that I was pulling from. Like, you know, for instance, I was actually on the verses, I was chasing, I don't know if you know any of the congotronics.
I don't know.
Albums, but in the Congo they play these instruments with their thumbs. It's like a wooden instrument, has chime, kind of metal things that you play, and then they plug them through amps. And it gets like these crazy sort of overtones, distorted overtones, so you get like 3 notes in one tone almost. And so I wanted sort of a, you know, a Congo sound in the verses, and then when it went to the choruses, I wanted it to open up and feel more majestic and cinematic, almost, you know, as it says in the lyric, like traveling through the mountains. And you know, when it goes into the distorted guitar stuff into the string section, I almost felt like I wanted to like go into the territory of Can. Do you know?
Yeah.
The band?
Yeah.
I wanted to go, I really love that band, I always have, and I loved that they were sort of genre-less, like they just followed whatever, you know, musical thing inspired them in the moment, and they just followed it and went with it, and I like that aspect of, and I like there to be experimental parts of music sonically, and as well as compositionally, so that was sort of a little bit of the inspiration.
And I have to ask about Everything You Need, which has got Eric Clapton on I say second guitar. So doing some solo work on it. I was going to ask, in the context of when you played with Eric over the years live, how do you decide during the different songs and the album as well, who's going to play first, who's going to play the lead part, who's going to play the secondary role? Is there a discussion, or is it kind of telepathic?
I think that it's sort of the way that I write songs. I sort of let the song as I'm writing it sort of discover itself, and it seems like when I'm writing it or recording it, I start to get ideas, and with this one, I was sort of styling it after a Sly Stone chord progression. Mm-hmm. There was a song called Underdog off a very early record of Sly Stone's that I was, you know, I wanted a song that sort of fit in that kind of place for me. And so as I was writing it, it started to feel a bit like Sly meets Isley Brothers, and I knew that I just had a feeling that Eric would really like the chord progression and the feel of the song. It sounded like something he would do almost. And so I just, you know, called him up, and because he is a friend of mine, just asked him that if he'd be interested in playing on a song. He said, sure. Like, if you can get to me, I'll play on it.
And talking about kings of the guitar, what is about you and kings? Your dad played with Freddy. You play your guitar upside down like Albert.
Yeah.
You did an album with B.B. King as well. And the one I wanted to ask you about is King of the Hill. You were in a band with Mike Judge.
Yeah. Yeah, I was. When I was 18. My dad's band was Mike Judge, myself, my dad, and this guitar player, Denny Freeman from Austin, who was sort of a mentor to Jimmy and Stevie Vaughan as well. And the funniest thing, I remember, you know, we would all be like, you know, joking around on these trips in a van, like driving through the Midwest or whatever on tour, and it was on one of those tours that Mike Judge was, you know, he created one of those little finger cartoons, you know, that you like turn, and he did one called Frog Baseball, and it was actually Beavis and Butthead playing Frog Baseball. And you can imagine how that ended. But so anyway, he just sent one of those little like pads of paper in, I think it was to Comedy Central, and he won this like best cartoon of the
Yeah.
whatever submission, and they ended up sending it to MTV, and then they picked it up and it blew up into like the biggest thing worldwide, just from that. And he was actually an engineer. He was, you know, that's what his degree was, in engineering, and proper engineering, not sound engineering. And so it was funny that you know, his life turned out completely different than what he expected, because he either thought he was going to play bass in bands the rest of his life or go into engineering, but he became, you know, one of the biggest cartoonists. And
so is it your eternal regret that there's no Doyle's tracks on the King of the Hill soundtrack, but there is a Sheryl Crow song?
I remember that. No, I don't. I have no regrets.
All right, so just to finish up, we've got the album coming out on the 5th of October, which is great. The last time you played in London, I think, was probably about a year and a half ago. So two questions. One, is there a Smokestack Mark II, a band you're playing with? And is that going to be coming over to Europe anytime soon?
I actually would love to come over here soon, and I'm that is actually my goal, especially with this record, is to establish myself more in Europe and the UK. Is the UK considered Europe? It's always considered two different things, you know. Maybe it's because of the money thing, but
we've never considered ourselves to be part of Europe.
Yeah, I've never said that. I always say UK and Europe.
Yeah, and
okay, so I'm correct.
That sounds correct to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. I just wanted to make sure. No mistake.
Thank you for asking.
But I really would love to establish myself here, so I can actually tour every year in Europe and UK, and you know, set up shop half the year over here. And
I know you were in the band with Chris Stainton, the Mad Dogs, an Englishman thing. Any chance to like bring that over or resurrect that one more time?
Resurrect the Mad Dogs?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean the lock-in thing?
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, obviously Leon passed away, so, and Chuck Blackwell, who was on that. So I don't know how many of the original people are left. Rita Coolidge?
Yeah.
And Chris, obviously. I don't know. That would be fun, actually, to do something, put something together. But yeah, I'll be back as soon as I can, because I want to spend all my time over here.
That's great to hear. Doyle, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Really enjoyed the album. Just repeat again, it's out on the 5th of October on Provogue, part of the Mascot Label Group, and we'll hope to see you soon, very soon, over in the UK.
All right, thanks for having me on.